familiar with. Most people use a lot of people use right click actually, but I use left click personally, and it is what you are most familiar with from this thing, from your everyday usage of a computer. So I advise you to use left click and space bar. This is for animation. I'll just leave it on play. I will show you what it does later. And this one is basically on this last picture is just the coloring. Blender light looks something like this. I prefer Blender dark, as do most people. So let's just leave it on this. So let's go to next. Okay. This is the open bar. This is what comes up when you open Blender after you open it first time. And this is what came up for most of you people, I'm quite sure. So these are the basic general workspaces of Blender: video editing, VFX, that's adding visual effects; sculpting, that's for character; 2D animation, that's animated drawings; and general, that's what we'll be working with, your 3D workspace. So in the Blender interface, there's something called Windows. Do we all follow before we move on? Are we all following? Do we all have our Blenders open?
Yes, I am.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Am I moving too fast?
Sir. No.
Am I moving too fast?
Yes. Sometimes you are faster than the way the network is.
So,
Okay.
hello, sir.
I'm listening.
So,
I'm listening.
my Blender is not working at the moment. So I don't know. You can go into class. I think someone is recording. Please, can the person drop the record after the class? Is it possible?
I believe the executives are recording the meeting, and yes, I'll
Okay,
get us access to the recorded class afterwards.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Sorry, please. I was just able to join. So I'm like, I can see everything that's going on, but then I don't know how you got here. Okay, I've seen.
All I did.
Don't worry, I've
Okay,
seen.
Thank you. No problem. For the just coming in, we're actually just opening Blender. Hello. For those of us just coming in, we're actually just opening Blender.
Please,
can we please mute ourselves?
Okay.
Can we mute ourselves? Hello.
Someone is asking my question.
Can we all mute ourselves? Okay. If you have a question, please raise up your hand. I will mute us when I'm sure we are a bit more organized. So for those of us just joining in, we are actually just moving to Blender. I was just explaining a few things to the rest of the class. So we're just moving to Blender, so you haven't actually missed much. Okay. So this is the Blender interface. This is what it looks like when you open Blender up on any day. So the Blender interface has something important called windows. And on the standard Blender interface, there are 4 windows open at any time. This is the first window, the second window, this is the third window, and the fourth window. They're also called panels, for the record. I'm coming. Sorry, I'm coming. Okay. So they're also called panels. They're also called panels. So there are 4 windows when you open Blender at any point in time. And the first window and the major window is this largest window. It's called your 3D modeling window. Is where you have your objects and your scene. And it has 3 basic things: the default cube, that's this one I have selected, then the lighting, which gives light to our scene when we render. You won't see its effect here, but when you render, that's when you see what it really does. And we have the camera. The camera is the directioning, is what will actually show when you render. So see what the camera is looking, you can click on this. That's what the camera shows us. and click out of it. Yeah, okay. So this is the default scene, and this is the major window. It's probably the most important window. It's probably the most important window on Blender. It's called the 3D modeling window. So the second window I would like to talk about is this one. If you come to this bar at the bottom, something like this originally, come to this bar at the bottom, left click and slide up. You'll be able to extend this window. And this is called the timeline. This is used majorly for animation, and it's called the timeline. It's used majorly for animation. It's called the timeline. If you press your space bar, you can see it's moved. But since we've not rendered anything in our animated anything in our scene, nothing really happens. So this is the third window, and it's called your outliner. Sorry, it's called your outliner. So the most important thing about this outliner, it is basically a bird's eye view of everything you have in your scene. There's the major collection is called the scene collection. It shows you every single thing you have in your scene, and it might not seem that important right now, but when we have several objects in our scene, hundreds of objects in our scene, that's when you begin to see the real effect of the outliner. It gives you a bird's eye view, and you can come and select from here. If you select camera, the camera gets selected, the cube, and the light. It shows you basically what's going on in your scene and what you have in your scene. We'll be discussing how to arrange it later on when we're actually working and the outliner is occupied. You can also see the separation by somewhere around here. If you left click on it and drag, we'll be able to move around. Okay, and finally, this is the last window open, and this is called the properties panel. It shows you the properties of your objects, in your scene. And there are several subsections on the property panel that you can discuss. We'll discuss those later when we move in properly. Now, the good thing is, despite that, this is just a default setting. This is what the Blender community has decided is the best settings to use for Blender. But this is just the default setting. You can change what each view is showing at any point in time. If you come on this first one, the 3D modeling window, and you click on this icon up here, you can see it's editor type. Click on it, and it shows you the different kind of editor you have here. The one we're working on currently is the 3D Viewports, the 3D modeling window. Then if you select the image editor, it changes to something else. If you select something else, it's a change something else. This is the graph editor. We're discussing this in more in depth later. And the timeline, same thing with this one below us. Let's go to the 3D viewport. So just look for this icon on the other windows to change the other windows also. This is for this one, this is it. The outliner is currently what we are on. We can change this to yet another 3D viewport to give us a sense of the way our scene looks. Hello? Farouk, you have your hands raised. What's the problem?
What you just said now, I don't understand what you just said now.
What part of it?
The the interface, the windows and so on.
Okay, let me quickly review that. I said Blender is divided into various sections called windows or panels. Please mute yourself. Blender is divided. Farouk, please mute yourself. Blender is divided. Blender is divided into various sections called panels or windows. And when you open Blender, there are 4 different windows that open. 1, 2, 3, 4. It usually looks something more like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can extend the space each window occupies on your screen by coming to the section that separates it. This line here that my mouse is hovering over, and clicking and dragging it up. That's how you select its section. And that's how it's, sorry, let's clicking and dragging it up. That's how you extend its section. You can do the same thing for here and for here. These windows are basically different ways we can affect our scene. The 3D model window is the most important because you always need it open to see what you are doing. And whatever you do in any of these three windows affects what happens on your 3D viewports. Is that clear, Farouk?
Yes,
Okay.
that's
So,
clear.
okay. So, although these are the default settings for Blender, you can change, although these are default settings for Blender, you can change what you can change, sorry, that distracted me. Although these are the default settings for Blender, you can change what each window displays by simply clicking on this icon at the edge of every window. 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you click on the icon, you get a larger, you get the various type of windows you can work on here. And these are the general windows. You have the 3D viewports, the image editor. If you are trying to edit an image, Blender can also do that, by the way. The UV editor, which has to do with texturing. We'll get back to that later. The compositor, which has to do with large videos. The texture node, also texturing. We'll get to that later. The shader, the video sequence, the shader editor, the geometry node, etc. And then we have this, which has to do with animation, the timeline, the graph editor, the dope sheets, and drivers and non-linear animation. We won't be touching this last two at all, but we'll discuss on these three when we open editor. And then scripting, I would advise you, except you have some serious knowledge in coding, to not touch anything here. Blender is an open source software, so Blender is an open source software, so you can actually configure your own Blender. You can change the way your Blender works for yourself. But unless you have some serious experience in coding, I would advise you not to touch it at all. And this is the data pan. These are the data panels. We have the outliner, which is the same thing as this, as you can see. We have the property window, which is the same thing as this, as you see. Let's just go back to the viewport. Sorry, I have a code. That's why I'm sniffling so much. Let's just go back to the 3D editor. So this is the most important window of any scene in Blender, your 3D editor. So here is the outliner, and I said the outliner basically gives us a bird's eye view of everything on our scene. It might not seem so important now, but there are times when I've been working and I've had to extend my outliner to reach as long as this, just to get a proper view of my scene. Let's get a proper view of my scene, because the outliner really lists out everything. And I'll be showing you how to arrange your outliner to give you better, to make your workflow better when we get there, when we have a need to. But I try to explain it and we don't really get it because there are not enough things on the outliner. So the third one here is the property window. And the property window shows us the properties of whatever item we select on our scene. You can see that if I select my cube, this shows us some basic things. If I select the camera, it changes here. If I select the lights, it also changes here. And with the light, when I select the light, you get this special light object editor. When I select camera, we get a special camera editor. When I select the cube, we get the special cube or the special mesh editor. So the property panel shows us and gives us the property of both our scene and whatever objects we want to view. And this is the fourth and final window. And this is the timeline. This is used largely for animation. So I will explain it when we get to the point of animation. I don't want to confuse us now. So I want to be touching this now. Let's just drag this down. Now, although there are 4 default windows on Blender, you can create as many as you like. Simply over the edges here, right click on your scene and click on either vertical splits and slide to how you want to split the screen. So now we have 5 windows. And you might be wondering why you want to do something like this. Well, like I said, and like we all know, Blender is a 3D software. So when working in a 3D scene, we can simply come and lock one of these windows in one view. and operate on this main one without changing the view this window views and operating. So when we walk on this one, we can see the effect it will have when looking at it from a direction. And we can do this for as many editors as we like. This one is currently on the X viewports. We can change this one to the Y, to the Z viewports, and change this one to the Y viewports. And when we move on this one, only this one will move. These three will stick to the directions we've chosen for them. And the reason why this is important is because Blender is a 3D software. So when you're modeling anything on Blender, you have to think about how it will look from all three angles. Your length, angle, X, Y, and Z, basically, length, breadth, and height. You have to think about how it will look from all angles and not just on the angle you're looking at it right now. Any questions so far?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
Please, can you go back to the part where you divided the whole thing into five different sections?
Okay. I said simply come to the split section, the line that divides the two windows, right click, not left click. Then choose either vertical or horizontal split and slide up to where you want where you want the screen to split and left click. It will split the screen immediately. Do we understand that? Do we understand that? Who asked the question? Okay. And I said the major reason why we might want to do this is to lock these various views on one angle. So we will see how the object looks from a specific angle. I have spent there was a time I spent around 45 minutes working with a cube, with a basic cube, trying to model something, only for me to finish, to think I was finished, and then spin it around and see that looking from the Y view angle, the entire thing was straight because I started working with a cube. Where the object I was trying to model was circular or cylindrical. So I just wasted almost an hour of work because I wasn't considering the other angles. So when working in a 3D viewport, you always have to consider what it would look like from the other angles. You can't just work from one angle. If I come here and I extrude and I do some things here, you can see that the effect looks different from each angle. But from the scene I'm looking at it, you can't really understand. You can't understand all the data from looking at it from one angle. So it's either you are constantly moving around on one 3D viewport to see how it looks from every angle, or you just lock down some viewports to show you how it looks from those angles. Now, to close up a window, because we have far too many windows here, to close up a window, simply come over the line that separates from another window. Let's click on join areas and slide down to the window you want to close. It will come back to the main window. Let me do that again. Go to the line that divides the two windows. Sorry, right click. I said left click before. It meant to be right click. Left click is to choose, right click is to perform functions. Right click, click on join areas, and slide in the direction of the window you want to close. So this is going to close this window. So let's just go back to object mode. This one back to the outliner and this one to the properties window. You don't really need that now, but when you're working in the future on bigger projects, you need to always consider what it looks like from various angles. So it's always a good idea to lock down some scenes to look at it from a specific angle. So you can get a sense of how it looks from those angles. Excuse me. Okay, so let's move on. Now, any questions about the interface? Any question about the interface? Any questions so far? I hope we're not confused. Is anybody confused?
I'm confused.
About what?
I still couldn't get the place where you said you divided you into sections.
I said come over this line. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
come to the line that divides these two parts together. Can you see where my mouse is?
Yes.
Can you see where my mouse is? Then right click on your own mouse. Have you right clicked?
Yes.
Right click on your own mouse. Then click on either vertical or horizontal split. Vertical will split it in this way. Horizontal will split it this way. So you click on either vertical or horizontal split. Then you will see this thing, that line dividing it.
Yeah.
You pull the slider to whatever direction you want to, and how large you want to make the new window, and then you left click.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Good. So now to delete a window, you come back to the line that divides the window you want to delete and any other window. Then you right click on join areas, and pull your mouse in the direction of the window you want to delete. If I'm pulling my mouse in this direction, it is this window that will be deleted. But if I put my mouse in this direction, it is this window that will be deleted. So this is the window I want to delete. So I'll put my mouse to the left, then I will left click. Is that clear? Is that clear? Is that clear?
No.
The joining areas, right?
Yes.
Please,
Just
Ishak,
watch what
please,
I
I
do.
have a question.
Go on.
Please, it might not matter, but this stuff down that I said is for animation.
Okay.
It's different on my own Blender. So is it that like something I pressed or it's just default?
Can you see where my mouse is?
Yes, that thing is different from here.
Okay. This thing is not in this position. That icon is not in this position.
Yes, it's not.
Is it a different icon that is there, or there is no icon there at all?
It's a different icon.
Okay, it doesn't matter because you're on a different view type. This icon is also different from it. This one is different. You can see that the four
Okay,
icons
please,
were
what I
working
mean
with
is
now
that
different. Then you click on it and you click on, go to animation and click on timeline. You probably just change it to something else by mistake. You can see
okay,
this has been changed to
non-linear
something else.
animation, I think.
Exactly. So go and click on timeline.
Thank
Is
you.
that settled? Okay.
Yes,
You don't need that now,
thank you so
so
much.
let's just slide down.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no
So I have
problem.
a question.
Go on.
You said something about locking the cube area. What if you want to release the lock? Like you want to release it? How do you
We'll
release
We'll get to that. We'll discuss on that when we're talking about movement. I'm moving on the Blender. But I've not explained how to move. I'm trying to show you the interface first. When we get to the movement part, you'll understand that.
it? Okay.
Is that clear? Is
Yeah.
that clear?
Yes.
Okay, that's the next thing when we're done here, but let's just quickly round up on this. So to delete a window, I said over the line that divides the window, right click on join areas, and slide your mouse in the direction of the window you want to delete. Then left click. Is that clear for everyone?
Yes. Yes,
If you
please.
don't,
No.
okay.
Yes.
No. Please can you
If you
repeat it
don't,
again?
okay, go over to the line that divides two windows. Right click on that line. Click on the vertical split or horizontal split, whichever one you want. Sorry. Whichever one you want. Then this slider, set it to the length, to the size of the new window you want to create. Left click it to create the new window. If you want
Sorry.
to delete, yeah. If you want to delete this window, go back to the slider, go back to the divider again, right click on it, click on join area, and slide in the direction of the window you want to close. I want to close the window on my right now, so I'm sliding my mouse in the right direction, then left click. That's all. Don't worry if you don't understand it. This is not an exam. It's not going to be an exam when you're working with Blender or any other software. So you can always Google things that you don't understand. If you don't know anything, it's simple to, you can easily Google it when you're working, and your answer will always be there. Blender has an extensive, there's extensive help for Blender on the internet. So if you need anything, just Google it online, and you'll be able to find the answer. So don't worry if you don't understand. For now, in fact, for now, you won't need to divide windows for now. We don't need more than the basic 4 right now. If we are working on more extensive things, we'll need more than the 4. But for now, this is sufficient. Okay. So, and finally, this is the default scene for Blender, and it's called the layouts menu. It's called the layout menu, but there are also several other menus here. There's also there's the modeling menu, which brings us to model, which was what I clicked in that time that I came to when I was showing you. I use the shortcuts. You can use tab to come in and out of it. The tab button on your mouse. You can use tab to come in and out of it, but you can also use here. The modeling menu, sorry. Then there's the sculpting menu, which is what we'll be using when we're doing character animation. You won't notice anything even if I try to work on right now because they are not nearly enough. The mesh data for this for the cube is not extensive enough to work on it. Feeling confusion. So the first one is the layout, second one is the modeling, third one is the sculpting. Then there's shading, which we'll be using to give our objects colors and textures. And there's animation. This is shading. There's animation and there's rendering, but we won't be discussing that right now. Let's just go back to the layout menu. This is all we need for now. This is all we need for now. So next up, we have the how to navigate the 3D viewports. How to navigate the 3D viewports. So let's go back to the mouse. So how to navigate the 3D viewports. So when working on the 3D workspace, you have to be able to move around freely on the workspace. And that's why this is why you need a mouse, most importantly. How many of us do not have a mouse here? A 3-button mouse. Something like this. Something like this.
I do not have.
Please, you have to get one before Friday. It is possible to work without it, but it's torture. There's no other way to put it. It's simply torture to work without it. But you have to get
button.
The scroller in the middle.
Oh.
Most scrollers are clickable. So when you are buying one, make sure you get a scroller that is clickable. Not one that doesn't just scroll, but you can also click on it. You'll need it when you're working on Blender. So let's endeavor to get a mouse like this before next week Friday. Perhaps earlier than that, so you can practice. So we can practice on our own.
What did you say in the beginning like this? I forgot.
Let's try to get this kind of mouse so we can practice on our own. It doesn't have to be wireless, and a simple mouse will do. A basic mouse, 3-button mouse goes for around 600, 700. Shouldn't be more expensive than that, and it will work for what we have to do for now. Okay. So to move around on the Blender 3D workspace, the first thing we need to know is how to select an object. How to select an object. And the way to select an object is with our left button, with our left mouse button. Is come over the object you want to select and click on it with your left mouse button. And to deselect it, over an empty space and click on the empty space to deselect it. Come over here and over on the camera to select it, over an empty space to deselect. Same thing with the lights, select, deselect. Do you understand that? Do we understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sir, please, did not hear you.
Oh, I said that to select an object, any object on Blender, over the objects. That means to carry your mouse over the objects. Then let's click on it. That will select the object. And to deselect it, come over an empty space and left click on the empty space. That will deselect the objects. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you so much.
Now, Blender is a 3D scene, so you need to be able to move around on your scene. And this is where the mouse button becomes important. So to move around on your scene, there are 2 ways to do that. The first way is to come over this icon here. Can we see it? Can we see this icon here? Hello, can we see
Yes.
this icon here?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
we can split our screen into two. By using a laptop, you can split your screen into two. So you're able to see what I'm doing while also working on Blender. Do we follow? Do we follow?
Yes.
Let's split our screen into two so we're able to see what I'm doing while also working on Blender. Let me do that also. Maybe from this much smaller space since I have way now screen. Come the lens below noise. Okay. So you're able to see what I'm doing while also working on Blender. Now you can come over here to rotate your scene around what I'm doing right now. To rotate your scene around, there are two basic ways of doing that. The first way is the button here. Come over this icon here, click on an empty space and move around. That will rotate your scene. Over the icon, click on an empty space and move around. If you remember when I was showing you the windows, I said you can lock a scene into one view mode. And to do that, to look at it from the top, that's Z. You click on Z and it locks it in this mode. And to simply unlock it, you just have to come here and click on an empty space and move. That's the answer to your question. However, I don't know what was the question. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. So to lock it in a mode, you just select on the mode. This is Z. And you're looking at it from the top right now. If you want to look at it from the bottom, click on Z again. It will flip it to the bottom. You can see negative Z, minus Z. So look at it from the top, that's Z. Then from the front, you click on X. And from the back, click on X again. It shows you X, minus X. From the side, from the right-hand side, Y. And to move to the left-hand side, minus Y. And to unlock it from any of these scenes, just simply click on the empty space and move it around. Do you understand that? Do you understand that?
Please, the moving around when it's locked is not working for me.
Okay. Is your scene locked? Hello, is your scene locked?
Yes, I've clicked on Z.
Okay, so come over to an empty space. Come over to an empty space on this
I've done
icon. Then left
What
click
icon?
and move. To an empty space on the icon, left click and move. Is that working?
Move. No.
Okay, mute yourself. Mute yourself.
Eh?
Mute yourself. Let me explain better.
Sorry, I not hear you.
Mute yourself.
Okay.
Okay. So if you are locked on the Z viewport, view angle, sorry, come over to an empty section on this icon, not on the Blender interface itself, on the icon, and left click on that section and move. You should change it. But if that doesn't work for some unknown reason, if that doesn't work, and you have a mouse with you, simply click on the middle button. That's the roller. Don't scroll. Click on it and move. That will unlock your scene. Click on the middle button and move. That will unlock your screen. Do you understand that now? Or did it work? Did this work? Okay, let's move on. So, like I said, the first way is using this icon, and the second method is using the middle button, the scroller button, to move around. Sorry that I'm dwelling on this interface thing so long, but we have to really understand how to move if we really want to do much here. So we have to.
So please, can you repeat the moving around part?
Okay, I said there are two ways to move around. Number one is using this icon here, where you can lock your scene in an angle, then left click on an empty space within the icon and move around. Or if you have your 3-button mouse, click on the scroller icon. Just hold the scroller icon down. Don't just click on it and let's go. Hold it down and move around, and it should your scene should be able to move around. You should be able to move around on your scene. Is that clear?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Great. So let's move on. Like I said, sorry I'm dwelling on this for so long, but if you really want to understand it, you have to understand how to navigate your workspace. If you really want to do much. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. So the second thing we need to know how to do is to move around on our scene. Sorry, to zoom in and zoom out. And the first way you can do it is using this button here. You hold it down and slide up if you want to zoom in, or slide down if you want to zoom out. You hold it down, hold this button down, and slide up if you want to zoom in, slide down if you want to zoom out.
To hold the button down.
Yes, if you just click on it, nothing will happen. You have to hold it down. Is that clear?
Yes.
You have to hold it down. If you just click on it, nothing will happen. So you have to actually hold it down and move around with it. Okay. So, or for those of us with our mouse, you can just scroll up or down on your scroller. Scroll up or down on your scroller, and that should move around. That should zoom in and out of your scene. Now, the next thing is moving around on the scene, moving around on your workspace. Are we clear with everything I've said so far?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So to move around on this workspace, you hold down shift. Hold down shift. Sorry.
Shift.
You hold down shift, hold down your middle button, and then you slide. Do you understand that?
No.
You have to hold down shift, not press, hold it down. Then hold down the middle button for those of us with our mouse. Hold down the middle button also. Hold both of them down, not press either of them, and then move around. Your scene should follow you. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
And for those of us without our mouse, you can see this hand button. It's going to move our view. Click and hold on the hand button and slide around, and you should slide your view around. Is that clear? Okay, so I'm assuming that's clear, and we move on. I'm assuming that's clear, and so let's move on. Now, the final thing is object transform. That's how we actually work on our objects. The mode we're currently in is called object mode. The mode we're currently in is called the object mode. And to work on the objects, what you can do on the object mode is very limited. So to work on the object mode, you work with these buttons right here. If these buttons aren't showing on your screen, you should see a small pull-out button here. Click on it and it should pull this menu out.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Yeah?
Can you repeat where the button
Hello?
is?
Yeah.
Hello, I can hear you. One at a time, please.
Sorry, please, can you repeat where the button
Yeah,
is?
Where which button is? You can't see this menu on your own screen, on your own Blender.
I can see it.
Okay, then you don't have any issue. Can we all see this menu on our Blender?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that means they will do it because in version 2.9, it doesn't open automatically. You have to bring it out. So I'm going to assume they've updated it to open automatically on version 3. That's good. So, someone wanted to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Who was that?
Sorry.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, if after you change like the angle of which you are viewing it, is there any way to like reset the original angle which it was at before?
No, you have to
Let's
do
say
it
you
manually.
change it like X, you have to do it manually.
You have to do it manually. So whatever scene you feel like. Or you can come here. Can you see this place? I'm coming. Can you see this button view?
Yes, sir.
Can you see this view? You can come here
Yes, sir.
and click frame selected, then zoom out. Come here, you click frame selected and zoom out. It should take you to the best view of from whatever angle. It's not the original view, but it takes it to like a scaled out view of the current orientation you're in. Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Someone else wanted to ask a question before we move on. A lady wanted to ask a question. Okay, I'll assume I've answered that question inadvertently, and we move on. Okay, go on.
How many scenes can we put our object into?
How many scenes can we put our objects into?
Yeah.
This entire thing we're looking at is a scene. Do you mean how many windows can we put our objects into?
No scenes.
How many scenes can we put one object into?
Yes. Or we create
Major,
different objects for different scenes.
you can always copy your objects. You can copy the left way with right click and copy object, or you can use Ctrl C to copy your object and paste it on a new scene whenever you want to. You don't always have to model the same object. You can even copy from a separate Blender slide completely and come and paste it on a new slide. Do you understand that?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So let's move on.
Sir,
Go on.
please, how can, like, if you probably made a mistake or something, how would you be able to go back or like clean it, something like that?
Ctrl Z. Most of our regular Windows shortcuts works on Blender. Ctrl Z is to undo.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Most regular Windows shortcuts also work on Blender, do their original functions on Blender. Ctrl X is to cut, Ctrl C copy, Ctrl V paste, Ctrl Z undoes. Is that clear? Okay, so let's move on.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we understand how to move around on our scene using the mouse or using this icon. We understand how to scale in and out using our mouse or using this icon. We understand how to move around this the view using the mouse and our keyboard or using this icon. Are we all clear on that? Are we all clear on all of that?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
great, let's move on. We have about 15 minutes left, so let's move on. So to actually begin to work on your object, you have to use these buttons here. So this first button is called move. You have to, first of all, you have to select the object you want to work on. If you are not select, if nothing is selected and you click on move, nothing happens. But you have to select the object you are working on first and click on move. Then this should come over your object. This kind of thing should come over your object. This is to move it in the Z direction. This is to move it in the Y direction. And this is to move it in the X direction. If you look at these buttons in between, this gray one moves it in both the X and Z direction without changing its position on the Y direction. Is that clear?
It isn't moving at all.
Is this icon showing over your object?
Yes.
Okay. So click on the arrow. So on the arrow to move it in the direction you want to move it in the direction. You want to move it in the Z direction, click on the blue arrow. You want to move it in the Y direction, click on the yellow arrow. Or is that green? I think that's greenish or lemon. Irrelevant. And in the X direction, click on the red arrow. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you want to move it in two directions at once, you can see if we click on this orange box, we'll be moving it in both the X and Z direction, but not the Y direction. Click on this X one, moving it in both the X and Z direction, but not the, sorry, in both the Y and Z direction, but not the X direction. And you click on this blue, we're moving it in both the X and Y direction, but not the Z direction. And if you just click randomly here, you can move it freely. If you click within this circle, you can move it freely.
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Yes.
Now, if we want to return our objects to the origin, this thing here is the origin. That's the origin of our scene, the center point of our scene. If we want to return our objects to the origin, simply left click, go to snap, and selection.
Oh, what did you get
Sorry.
this? I thought that you aren't really into teddy bears anymore, are you?
Where is that?
This.
Where is that? Okay. Right click and go to snap, then selection to cursor.
It was a worthwhile
Selection to
I made civil
Cursor.
disturbance. Yes, something very interesting.
Selection to cursor. If we move this around, if we move this away, you right click, go to snap, then click on selection to cursor. Is that clear? Is that clear for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's move on. Now, for hotkey users, that's hotkey is your this thing, your keyboard. For hotkey users, the way you can do this without touching this at all is to simply press G on your keyboard. Let's press G. Press G on your keyboard. Now, when you press only G, you get the free range of movements. You get the free range movements. Now, if I left click, I'm locking my objects in this point. Or if I right click, I'm taking it back to the original point it was before I moved. If I left click, I'll lock my object in the new point I've placed it. But if I right click, I'll return it back to the original point. Do we get that? And that's how it works in Blender generally. Whenever you're working on something, if you left click, you are basically saving what you've done. But if you right click, you are undoing what you've done. Do you understand that? Do we understand that?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. So that's for movements. We can. That's for movements.
Please, can you repeat that again?
I said, okay, for hotkey users, that's people that will use their keyboards and their mouse alone without touching the icons. It's generally faster that way. It's called hotkey using. For hotkey users, if you want to move an object, you simply press G, and it gives you a free range of motion. It doesn't lock you to any perspective. It gives you a free range of motion. Now, after you've moved your object to wherever you want to move it to, if you left click, you are locking your object to that point. But if you left click, you're locking your object to that point. But if you right click, you are snapping your object back to where you picked it up from. If you left click, you are locking your object to the points where you have moved it to. But if you right click, you are taking your object. That means you don't want to perform the action that you just made. Perhaps it was a mistake and you want to return it back. That's what right clicking is. Okay. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
However, you can also lock your movements when you're using hotkey. So if I grab, hold on. If I grab my object using G is short for grab, by the way. If I grab my object using G and I want to move only in the X direction, I simply have to press X. Then you see that the X line is highlighted. I can only move in the X direction. Only in X direction. If I press Y, I'm moving only in Y direction. If I press Z, I'm moving only in Z direction. Are we clear on that? Are we clear on that?
Yes.
However, if I press Shift X, it means I want to move in every direction but X. If I press Shift Z, I want to move in every direction but Z. If I press Shift Y, I want to move in every direction but Y. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. You can also rotate your objects using this button or the R.
I have a question.
Go on.
I press Shift X and it's telling me, do I want to delete?
You press Control X, not Shift X. Or is that how you didn't press Shift? No, sorry. You didn't press Shift. You only press X. X is for delete. You have to hold the Shift down. Shift and X together at the same time.
It's still saying the same thing.
It's saying the same thing.
Did you select your objects first? Have you selected? You select your object, then you press G before you press Shift X.
Okay.
select your object. You select your object, you press G, then you press Shift X.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this doesn't seem boring, so I guess I'm just talking a lot right now. We're not doing much.
No, no, no. We're good.
Okay, we're good. Great. Okay,
So
perhaps
how do
for
we
fun now.
go back to the original position? If you're using keyboard.
Just right click before you press right click before you left click. If you right click it to reverse it to the original position, but if you left click it to fix it on the position you're currently in. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So next we can also rotate our objects using this. You can rotate our objects using this. And if you click on this yellow line, it will rotate on only the Y. You click on the red, it will rotate on only the X. On the Z, it will rotate on only the Z axis. And for hotkey users, you can do that by pressing R and fix the angles by pressing the letter next. If I press, sorry, hold on. Remember I said I deleted Blender so I can reinstall it and start from the beginning on this class. There was something I'd done before. It's called screencasting. So it shows you the buttons I'm actually pressing on my own system. I forgot to reinstall it after I reinstalled Blender because I didn't want to work on it before the class. I can't do that now, but I promise you by next week I'll have my screencasting installed. So you'll be able to see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. It's a bit confusing when you don't see what I'm doing. So I'm sorry about that, but I promise to have it installed by next week. So take me around 10 minutes to do it now. I don't cut that much time from our class. So I will do that before next class. So for those back to rotating, you can use either this button and lock yourself on one angle. If you don't look at any angle, just click on the second and rotate freely. Or you can use R. If you're using button, press R. If you want to lock yourself on X, just press the button X after you press R. Or you press R, then press Y to lock yourself on Y. Or you press R and you press Z to lock yourself on Z. You can also use the shift to lock yourself on two angles without moving on the third. R, then shift Z to lock yourself on two without working on Z. R, then shift Y to lock yourself on X and Z without working on Y. And if you don't want to lock yourself any, just press R and move freely. So are we clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Then we have scale, which is self-explanatory. To scale another is to resize the object. Hold on, I can't reset my objects. Okay. So to scale your object, you can use this next one, and this will scale, and the same thing applies. Click on Y to scale across only Y, on the blue to scale across only Z, red to scale across only X. Then you can click on this to scale on two without scaling on the third. Scale on two without scaling on the third. And if you want to scale freely, just click on an empty space and to enlarge the entire object in its totality. And for hotkey users,
on the object and I selected on scale, but it's not doing anything.
you selected on the objects.
Yes.
Then you selected the scale button.
Yes.
And this icon did not appear.
No.
Click on this select box that my screen is showing now. Go back to the select box or press W if you're using hotkey. Go back to the select box or press W. Are we clear on that?
Yes.
Then try it again. I have no idea why it didn't work, but it should work. Did it work now?
No.
Still not working.
Still not working.
Okay, press S. Select your object and press S. Can you scale with your hotkey?
I think it's because I have.
Because you haven't what?
It's still on rotate.
Oh, okay, move it away from rotate first. Press W or go to select box. Press W or go to select box.
Okay. Oh, I've got it.
Oh, great. So let's move on. Let's move on. So for hotkeys, like I said, S is how we scale, and it's the same thing. X, press the X button after pressing S to look on the X angle. Press the Y button after pressing Y to look on Y, and press the Z after pressing Z to look on only Z. You can also use the Shift buttons to look on anyone. Shift Z to move on X and Y without moving on Z, etc., etc. Let's not get too repetitive. Okay. Now, if you notice, I have deleted my cube so many times, and the way to do that is either by right-clicking and pressing delete, or to simply press X and press delete, like the mistake one of us was making earlier. And then to add a new object, you either come here and press add, then click on mesh and the object you want to add, or you can simply use Shift A, and it brings up that same menu to wherever your mouse is. Shift A, bring up the same menu to wherever your mouse is. Now, something interesting is happening. You know, I've added 3 cubes, but how many cubes are we seeing? Hello?
1.
I don't understand. It's 1 cube.
Sorry. Sorry, I have a question.
And I'm adding a cube, but it doesn't seem like any cube is being added. When we come to our outlier, we can see the outlier is clearly showing us that we have 4 cubes on our scene. So we can guess what is happening.
Each scenes are being recorded.
No, there's just one scene.
No.
This entire thing is one scene.
We selected just one scene. One
No.
object, actually.
Okay. Any other person?
Still stacking up inside the cube.
Exactly. They are stacking up on each other. All the cubes are exactly the same size, and they are all appearing on the same place.
Okay.
You can see this this thing my mouse is hovering over. Can you see this thing my mouse is hovering over?
Yes, yes.
Whenever you add an object, the object is going to appear to that point. So I've been adding.
I'm sorry, sir, but something came up in my Blender. It's showing another page, and the page is saying paint.
Go to this place. Are you currently on layout? So my mouse is. Are you currently on layout?
Please, I don't understand how you stacked it up.
I'm coming. Let me settle. Can we all mute ourselves, please? Except the lady that has a problem. Okay. Are you currently on layout from this place? You're probably on texture paint. So move to layout. Is that clear?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. So like I said, there are currently 4 cubes on our scene, but it seems like there's only one. And the reason for this is because we have been stacking the cubes on top of each other. We are overlapping them. It's more like overlapping, not stacking. And this object here, this thing here, this is where any objects we add will come to. This icon shows where it's called the cursor. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's called the cursor. And this cursor is where any item we add will come to. The cursor is where any item we add will come to. So we haven't moved our cursor or our objects, but we keep adding new cubes to the scene. So the cubes are all exactly the same size. So they are basically just overlapping each other. If we move them around, we can see that there are actually 4 cubes there.
Wow.
But I have a question.
Go on.
I deleted mine, but then it's only 1 cube I'm actually seeing.
Were you adding other cubes to it?
But how did you move them out?
Normal grab now. G. Hold on, sorry. G for grab is how I move them about. Hold on. Standardly, there is only 1 cube. There's only 1 cube here. However, someone asked me I was explaining how to add an object, sorry. So I came here,
Yes.
I pressed add, and I added a cube. I showed you how to do it on with your keyboard, Shift A. I added yet another cube. And I said if you check your outlier is saying it's showing that you have 3 cubes on your scene, but we are only seeing 1. And the reason for that is because all the cubes are of the same size and we are overlapping them on each other. So if you move out 1 cube, you will see that there are actually other cubes there. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's actually only 1 cube there. There will only be more if you added more. That's why you're not saying that's why it's only one that's moving around on your own system.
Is that
Is
why
that
you
clear?
adding more?
You can add more from here by clicking add on top here, or you can use the shortcut Shift A. Then select your cube. Let me select something else so we see it more clearly. You can either come here to add, or you use Shift A to add another object. Are we clear on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's go back to our basic scene. So, any questions so far?
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm listening.
The scaling part. Can we scale an object to a particular dimension?
Yes, you do it the same way you've been doing every other thing. You press S to scale, and then you press the dimension to
Okay.
lock it on that dimension. Is that clear?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm coming. So that's all for the object mode. That's all for the object mode. That's basically everything you can do here. So the final thing here is transform. And transform is, I call it the madman's workspace because I never use it and I don't know anybody that uses it. I know people that use Blender, I don't know anybody that uses transform. Because basically what transform does is that it allows you to do all 3 simultaneously. And it can get very, very confusing. So after class, we can practice with it. We can see these curves here. That's for rotate. This one is for scale, and this one is for movement.
I'm sorry, sir. Anytime I click on any one of those stuff, none of these things you are showing us shows on my own Blender.
Are you left clicking or right clicking?
Left clicking.
And it's not changing. Try right clicking. Perhaps you selected the right click when you're setting up a Blender. Does it work when you right click? Hello?
Yes?
Does it work when you right click?
No.
It doesn't work either. Perhaps you should stick to the hotkeys for now.
Okay.
Stick to the hotkeys for now. I'll try to figure out what's the issue. Or can you share your screen? Let me stop sharing my own screen. Do you want to share your screen so I can see what's going on?
I don't know how to do that.
Can you see where I'm going? That change stop sharing. On your own slide, if you see there, when I stop sharing my own screen, you should be able to share your own screen on that from that same position. This same position I am on my Teams. So go to your Teams. I'm going to stop sharing so you can share your screen. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that? Okay. So I've stopped sharing. So share your own screen. Let me see what's going on. Share your own screen. Have you gotten it? Okay, let me come back since you don't seem to be getting it right. Okay, you've gotten it. Wait. So go to your Blender. Go to your blender. Remember, everybody can see your screen now. Hello? Go to your blender. Let me come back. Okay, I'm currently sharing my own screen. Can we all hear me? Can we all hear me?
So,
Yes.
Yes,
And
yes,
can
I
we see my
can.
screen? And can we see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Okay,
But I have a question.
go on.
Mine is showing the cubes, but they are kind of like empty, showing only the border edge.
Can you see all my mouses?
Yeah, I can
Can you
see
see
your
my
mouse.
mouses? If I
Yes,
select my cube and I click on this, it only no, actually. It only shows the edges.
please come again, come again. Okay.
So go back to this one.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah, I'm hearing. Listening.
Are you back?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that was error. We'll go over what each of those do eventually, but for now we don't need it. Just make sure you are on this place. Are we all clear?
All right.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. No problem. Let's move on.
Few minutes.
Okay. So where are we? Okay, I'm on the transform, what I call the madman's workspace. Is the only reason I don't like it because it gets confusing. If you know how to use it properly, it can actually make your work very easy. But I don't generally use these buttons. I just use hotkeys. But if you want to use these buttons rather than hotkeys, then it's best you get used to these things. If you want to use this rather than using buttons or hotkeys, it's best you get used to using the transform workspace because it can make your work a lot easier. Now, let's move on from this object window. Now, so far, we've been working on what is called the object window. So far, we've worked on the object window, but there are several other windows in Blender. And the way you can change windows is by coming here. You can see where my mouse is. Click on the drop down, and then you see different modes. So far, we've been on objects mode, but now let's move to edit mode.
Okay.
Move to edit mode. For hotkey users, you can just simply press tab. Press tab will move you in and out of edit mode. You understand that? Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Now, everything you've done on object mode, you can do it on edit mode. And then you can do some more. Everything we've done on object mode, you can do on edit mode, and then we can do more. Now, there are a lot of things we can do here, so I am not going to go over everything here. I will simply advise that for now, you don't need these pink ones. They are specialized keys. If you want to study them on your own, you can study them, but you don't really need them for now. I will advise you to practice how this work, these green ones. Practice what they do on our own time. I don't want to spend too much time here. So let's practice what these green ones do on our own time. Let me just quickly run through them. So let's try and keep up. So there are three selection types when you're in edit mode. There is the vertex selection type, and that's going to be done by clicking on this icon here, vertex select. There's the edge select, click on this icon and then you select the edges. And then there's the face select. Click on this icon and you select the faces. Do you understand that? Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The face, the edge, and the vertex.
Yes.
Just like a standard cube, the faces, the edge, and the vertex. So we move to let's move on the faces, the most obvious one. So the first icon here, what it does is extrude. And what that means, it creates another face on top of the face. If we press extrude now and we pull up, we get another face on top of it. Do you understand that?
No.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't.
If you are selected on a face, if I want to create another face on this, I basically want to double up on this face. All I have to do is press extrude region, and then pull up. It adds another face. And the reason why we know that it's adding another face is because of these lines. These lines let us know that it's not just one continuous cube any longer. If you select on another any other face and you extrude, it adds a separate face to it also. Let's practice this on our own. I said I was just going to run through them because there are a lot. We'll have to practice them on our own. You will learn them by assimilation. When we're working properly on models, we'll be using them a lot. For hotkey users, the shortcut is just to press E. Select on the face and press E. E for extrude. Are we clear on that? E for extrude.
No.
No.
I said I'm going to run through it, so practice it on our own. Basically, you select on your face, your edge, or your vertex, and then you press E to extrude that face, edge, or vertex. You can lock the angle you're extruding in the same way we lock every other angle by Z, Y, or X. And you can move it however you want to move it. But we'll discuss that on our own. Practice that. We'll discuss it more next week.
Nothing actually happened.
Yeah, I know that you completely been having problems with these icons, right?
Yes.
I don't know why that is, honestly. I've not experienced such problems before. But stick to the hotkeys for now. If you select the face and you press E, does something happen? Something is happening, right?
No.
Select the face, you press E, and then you move.
Nothing is happening now.
Nothing is happening to none of us.
I know if you select mode or vertex select, the person has to move.
Okay, let's go into tab again. If you're on face select, if you are on face select and you extrude, it will extrude the face. If you're on vertex, if you're on edge select and you extrude, it will extrude the vertex. If you're on edge, so if you're on, that was edge, and now if you're on vertex, it will extrude the vertex. But if you're working on vertex, it's most likely not going to be clear, visible what you're doing, because it's just a single vertex, and that's nothing. For you that say your icon isn't working, the icons aren't working, stick to the case. Is something happening now?
No.
What mode are you on? What select mode are you on?
Edit mode.
Can you see where my mouse is? Can you see where my mouse is?
Yes.
What select mode are you on? What selection are you on? Is it face select, vertex, or edge of vertex select? You go to face. Go to face.
Face. Okay.
Then click on any random face you want. Then use the Alt key, E, to move around on it, to move the face around. You can move it and you can move it out if you want. Is it working now?
Yes.
Okay, exactly. So let's practice it on. I said I was going to run through it. I was still on extrude. Okay. So you can. The next one is to. The next one is intrude. You can use this icon, or you can use I. And basically, what you're doing is you're inserting the face. Can we say that? If you don't use the icon,
No,
you can use.
I didn't get that.
Click on the face. Intrusion works mostly on faces. If you want to please insert faces, you can see my icon is below extrude. Click on it, click on the face you want to intrude, then you click on this circle and you slide your mouse in or out. If you slide out, you can't slide out beyond the original boundaries of that face. So you can basically only slide in. It's the opposite of extrusion. We call it intrusion. About outrusion. It basically creates a new face in a face. Are we clear on that?
Yes, sir.
No.
Yes.
Okay, great. If we're having problems on it, let's practice it. We need to go through the rest. Let's just practice it now. And like I said, you can always Google things. I will give you some, I will share some files, sorry, not files, some videos on the Slack channel that goes over these edit mode types again, so we can practice, so you can get a better understanding of it for next class. We have less than 20 minutes left here, so let's try and complete this. So then we have loop cuts, which is probably the most important one here. We have the loop cuts. I skipped over the bevel because it's quite complex. We'll go over that one later. So we have the loop cuts. And basically the loop cuts divides your object in half. Can you see what I'm doing?
No.
You can't see what I'm doing. Or you don't understand what I'm doing.
I don't understand.
If you have your object selected, okay, you have to select your object. Come to loop cuts here, or Control R for hotkey users. You can select loop cuts here or Control R. Then once we have that selected, over your object, then you should see these yellow lines appear on your object. Can we see those yellow lines? Can we see any yellow line appear over? Yes.
Yes.
So what loop cut does is to divide our object into two. It divides the object into two. It doesn't separate them. It just divides it. It inserts new edges around our object. So if we select, if you left click, you're fixing it. Left click and you're fixing it. Are we clear on that?
Yes,
Can do it horizontally too.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Press W. Press W to get out of that lookup menu. You can press W or simply stop pressing Control if you're using hotkeys. If you're using the button, press W. The next one is knife. I won't be going over knife now because it's quite complex. It basically means you can draw something on your skin, on your objects. Then you press enter to fix what you've drawn. We won't go over that now. And finally, spin. What spin does. I will share a video to better explain this before next class. But we don't have any more time to go over everything completely right now. So let's practice it on our own. Any other question? Any other question? Like I said, it might feel a bit overwhelming to introduce us all of these things at once. So the most important thing is for us to practice. Is to practice it on our own. And there is no hard and fast way for it. If you forget something, simply Google it. Blender even has a function to help us with that. They even have to go to Google. If you press F3, you get this menu. If I press select, you'll see what this is. To select all, you simply have to press A. So the select all, press Alt A. Select random, Control I. And we can see all of this. If I want to rotate, all I simply have to do is press F3 and type rotate. Show me how to do it. The shortcuts to doing it here. You don't have to remember everything. There are a lot of things. We're just starting. And everything I said, you remember them by practice. But going on, there are some things you will begin to forget because you don't use them so often. And this is a simple way to get them out from where they are. This is a simple way to get them out from where they are. You simply press F3 and search whatever you want. If you want to extrude, type extrude. You can't remember what extrusion is. Apparently, extrude is not there. I don't know why. But it should be. But probably not because I'm not in edit mode. We type, if you press F3, extrude. Yeah, because we're not in edit mode. That's why I was showing us extrude. So if you go to inside mode and press extrude, it will show you the extrusion there. Type intrude. So you're allowed to forget some things. Insert, I mean, it's called insert in Blender. It used to be called intrude. I don't know what it's called insert now. We're allowed to forget things, but the more we practice, the less we'll forget. And even when we do forget, you can simply Google it or press F3 to check for it. We just have to play around with Blender and let's try to get ourselves more familiar with it. That's really the only way we can truly learn. And let's all go back to our teams. Can we see where my mouse is right now? Can we see this last line where my mouse is?
No.
Hello? See where my mouse is? Can we see my mouse?
Yes.
This last line, the very last line before you exit, before you are no longer in Blender. Can we see it?
Yes.
Now, what that does.
Is it where box selects is?
Box select, rotate view. What that does is that for every single thing you select in Blender, a menu of what you can do with it shows up in that bottom part. You can see that it highlights the left mouse click to pause select, and highlights and hold for box select. And if I press S now, you can see that the thing there has changed. It shows you how to cancel, how to confirm, X locked on the X axis, Y locked on the Y axis, to snap inverts, and everything you can do with it. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
So let's feel free to refer to that any single time we're working on Blender. It basically shows you what you can do, whatever you press. It shows you what you can do with it. If I simply grab something here and I look at it, it will show me everything I can do with it. If I press E, it will show me all I can do on the all I can do. Press escape to exit, and so on and so forth. So let's feel free to refer to that anytime we're confused. So any question on anything we've treated today? Any question on anything we've treated today?
No.
The knife tool.
No.
The knife tool, what happened to it?
Like how to complete the something. After when I'm left clicking, I'm using it to cut. I don't know how to finish it.
Press enter.
Okay.
Hold on, one at a time. Cuts. Press enter to complete your cuts. Is that clear?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
What was the other person asking a question?
You said that I can't remember for leaving a cut. If you want to leave the cut too.
You want
If
to
you want to
complete
leave if you want to like exit the loop cut.
Oh, press W. Did that work?
I think.
You think? Did it work?
Yeah, it did.
Okay. W returns you back to your selection, so that's what W does. Any other question? Any other question?
No.
Hello? Okay. So I understand that this might feel a bit like a letdown, because I was thinking 3D modeling animation, we were probably expecting something a lot more exciting. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This because we are still at the beginning. Just relax.
This is exciting, though.
This is exciting. I'm glad to hear that. It's not because we're still at the beginning. When we learn to do more, it will be a lot easier for us.
Exactly.
And we don't have to go through the basics before you do anything.
Wow. Wow.
Let's go to the basics. Yeah?
Please, do you need to know how to draw it?
No. Like I said earlier, I don't have to draw to save my life. If someone put a gun to mine and told me to draw a table, I'll probably die.
Okay.
So
Great.
you don't need to know how to draw to do this.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
We're
Any other
good.
question?
We're good.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
This you're
sir.
No
showing
problem.
us should be an animation, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, 3D animation.
Wow.
I wanted to show you something that was a bit more visually exciting.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
leave. Thinking it was a bit boring. So that's that. And it's also quite easy to do. I did this while we're just now, in like less than 2 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So I'll explain it later, Sham. I'll explain
Okay.
how to do this next class.
Wow.
Okay.
No, voila. So
I'm
Alright, thank you
sorry.
very much.
Sorry, sir. Excuse me.
All
All
right,
right.
thank
Yeah?
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
Excuse me. This is the
I'm
only way we
listening.
get like I think what you were using.
Huh?
Like what you were using to teach.
Oh, the material, the slide. The slide. Do you
Yeah,
mean the
some
slide?
yes.
I will
And
share the
video.
slide.
Yes, yes.
I will share the slide this night on the Slack.
Where? On Slack.
I will share the slide on Slack. I will send a drive link.
Is there any way it can be shared
Sir,
to any other place too, apart from Slack?
Slack is the primary method of communication for ECX. So we all
Yes,
have to
so
make
can
sure we
it
join
like
Slack. I will
but
send.
like
Hold on. I will send it as a Google file. So we can also save it to our
okay,
own Google Drives and view it from there.
okay, thank you. That's fine. Thank you so much.
Okay.
sorry,
Any
Hey,
other
sir,
questions?
I'm not, sir. Excuse me, sir. I'm not added to the
So the
group.
Slack.
To the group for no, I'm on Slack. I'm on other discussion channels, but I'm not on building 3D modeling channel.
What's your name?
Ajayi Olatomiwa. They said we should fill a Google form. I filled it.
Were you the one that complained this afternoon?
Yes, yes.
I think I've added you already.
Oh,
You
you've
complained
added
on
me.
hashtag
Okay.
help. I
Let
think
me
I've added
check.
you.
sorry, sir,
I'm not also added to the
about
Slack
my
channel.
system.
Hold on, sorry, one person at a time.
I'm not added to the Slack channel also.
What's your name?
Precious Jacob Chimizi.
Okay, Precious Jacob Chibueze. Let me check for that. Okay. The first guy that asked, have you seen your name there?
Sir, I'm still seeing channels, announcements, general, help, random. I'm not
Okay.
seeing 3D.
For those of us that are not added to the 3D channel, put your name down in the hashtag help. I'll add all of us tonight.
Sir, we are in the.
Hashtag help. The help,
Okay, sir.
help
Thank
channel.
you, sir.
The help or general channel. I'll add all of us tonight. If you know you're not on the 3D channel, put your name down in the help or general channel and put 3D modeling beside it so I will not get confused. Put your name and 3D modeling beside it. So I'll add you guys to the channel. Is that
So
clear?
what are you
All
going
right,
to do
all
to
right.
my blender? The
Which
one
one is
that
what?
isn't showing pictures?
Eh?
My blender, the one that isn't showing the stuff when I click on it.
It's not showing what?
The cursors.
Oh, okay. Honestly, I have not heard of that kind of problem before. Perhaps you should uninstall and reinstall, but I have no idea why that is happening. Perhaps you should uninstall and reinstall. I have not come across that kind of problem before. Does anybody else have that problem? That
Which
the
problem?
you can see what I'm doing on my screen. She said that when she selects this, these menus aren't coming over our objects.
Okay. No.
I don't know why that is happening. I honestly don't know why that's happening. Perhaps you should uninstall and reinstall. And if it happens again, let me know on Slack. I will find out why I can find out and tell you how to fix it. Is that all right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So next
Thank you very
week,
much.
we'll be building a basic classroom with just the tables and the chairs. We'll build the room, the floor and the walls, and we'll put the tables and the chairs. We'll be introducing us to modifiers. That's what I'm hovering over. We'll be using the array modifier and the mirror modifier. Modifiers are just tools on Blender to help us work faster. And I think I'll share the curriculum sometime during the week. I'm not the only tutor. I will also have another tutor. His name is Dozier. He's on the channel. Dozier will be taking you on week 3 for texturing, adding colors and textures. Because it's not only about colors on Blender. It's called textures. It will explain to you week 3. And week 4, I believe, depending on how fast we are going, week 3 or week 4, we will start our first project. That's building the chessboard and animating a game of chess. I won't want us to render the entire game. That will take forever. Honestly, it took me about, I think, 2 minutes to render the single scene of chess that I did. It's not currently, I'll have loved to show you guys, but I don't currently have it here. I've not imported on my files, but when I reinstalled Blender, when I deleted and reinstalled Blender, I'll show it to you next week what we'll be doing. I'll put it on the Slack channel. Week 4, we'll be doing a 3D chess scene. I won't want us to render the entire video. That will take too long. It took me about 2 minutes to render one frame for the video. And they are like, and we can work with like 64 frames in 1 second. So even with just a basic 1 minute game, it will take us hours upon hours to render that. That's way too long. Standard animation companies, they dedicate entire computers, massive computers to rendering, to show you what kind of work rendering is. There are entire videos on YouTube, but now you can shorten your rendering time. It's an entire thing. So when we create the animation for the chess, we'll just play it out on ourselves without rendering it because it takes too much time to render. And etc. I'm just telling us what we're doing in the future. If you want to leave, you can leave. We're done with the class. Does another person have a question? Does anybody else have a question?
No.
Okay. So I guess that's all. Please let's all get our mouse before next week. Next week we'll be creating the table standardly. So we need a mouse to work properly. Like I said, we can work without the round.
Wait. I have a question.
Go on. Go on.
I have a question.
Yeah, go on.
To those who couldn't install the Blender app on the laptop, which version is the lowest? I mean, which lower version can we install that we can still use for all the modeling that you have just done?
Except you want to install an ACT version from the Blender website, you can only download the most updated version.
Okay.
So except you want to install an ACT version, you have to find where you can do that. I don't know where. Well, from the Blender website, blender.org, you can only install the most updated version. Let me just go there and see if I'm correct. Yeah, you can only install the most updated version. You can't.
Okay.
You can't download any other lower version. Okay. Actually, I'm using Windows, not Linux.
Yeah, I'm using Windows.
I'll just go on the basic download Blender 3.0 here. I know how.
Okay.
Is that all?
Thank you,
that's
sir.
all.
Have a good day, everyone. Glad to have you here. See you next week.
Okay, sir.
Bye-bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye.